And welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. So, we're back to another weekly update. However, there are no patch notes to go through today, so I'm actually going to compile something very special, a fault list with the game and the service that we are receiving. So, these are the following faults that have currently been in the game that have been showing up once more. Stuck in the gate. Now, getting stuck in the gate has started again after their last patch to fix up the server. So players are now getting stuck in the gate once more. Now, they haven't implemented any changes compared to the fact that most of those who gave them that list of 20 faults they have found with the game all reported the exact same problems, and they haven't said anything, they haven't launched anything about that as yet. So hopefully in the next week or so we will get something. So I'm going to give you a list of bugs that are within the game. I normally don't do this here because today I'm feeling a bit more ticked off with the support team. So here's my fire off at them for them to get the whole community behind exactly what I'm saying. So let's go for it with number one. Number one on the list of problems within the bugs is getting stuck in the gate. Now, when you get stuck in a gate, when you enter, you are not vulnerable. But when you arrive on the other side, you have the invisibility timer. Whether you are able to see the system or not, the invisibility timer starts ticking away. And once it is done, you are now visible within the system. Now, if you stay online and hope for it to clear up, if any red jumps next to the gate, they can lock onto you and destroy you. That is something that has happened to one or two players. And the devs, when it comes to recovery in this method, they only recover if you can prove to them that you are stuck in the gate, right? So if they can't find proof that you're stuck in the gate, they won't restore your ship. And it gets worse than this. When you are stuck in this way and your ship is destroyed, if you do have proof, they don't restore your items. Now, even though it's going to take them a considerable amount of time, you are subject to the complete compensation rule, which is explained in their page, which is if it is impossible for you to return to your loot box and pick it up after you were destroyed, you will be fully compensated. So let's just go over the gray area within that. Are they talking about the ship that was attacked, or are they talking about with another one of your ships? So let's go over it in relative choice. Their choice of words are poor. The fact that an enemy gets to exploit that weakness of your ship and keeps the loot is really unfair. They should reverse that loot and return it back to you at the very least. And when it comes to these investigations, they can take several days. Now, I myself, having gone through one of the similar bugs to being stuck in the gate, I went through a navigation bug, but nonetheless, getting stuck in the gate and you don't get your items back generally tends to make players extraordinarily upset. And that is something that Eve is showing that they are extraordinarily good at. They're extraordinarily good at not listening to their player base. So, yes, that's an Echo's problem. They don't listen to their players. They simply go and they open up a report, and that's that. That is it. That is all that they have for you as the player. They open up the report, they look at it, they look at the first word, they look at the last word, and they're done. Now, the reason why I'm saying they look at the first word and last word is I filed in a report when I had a navigation bug. Station to station navigation through your inventory menu. So once you open your inventory menu and you set navigation to your inventory, it takes you to the station where the inventory is present. Now, I did this here and I ended up getting dumped in the middle of a sector. Yes, in the middle of a sector, and I ended up getting destroyed, right? So I was one of the more unlucky ones. And it gets worse. I was offline, so the moment I arrived at my location, I should have dropped off the map. I wasn't scrambled, so nobody actually pulled me out of warp or anything of the sort. Okay, so I wasn't scrambled. I was offline, so I was subject to disappear from the map the moment I arrived. Let's see, what else were the problems over there? Oh, I was offline. Did I mention that? I was offline for about 2 hours in this entire incident. So there was no way that I knew the incident was happening. There was no way I could counter what was happening. It was during the time when I was offline. And I was flying a ship that generally doesn't get caught, the Atron Interceptor. If you have enough research in it, it is faster than any ship's targeting, so no ship is capable of actually locking onto you. So there we go. Those are all of the problems that went down with my one. I was destroyed, and they told me that I'm not subject to the complete compensation rule. Now, let's look at that from the point of view for both of us who have experienced the navigation and the Stargate problem. So, the navigation problem. When you are dropped out in offline, you are said that you are going off grid. So, it's their own rule saying that you shouldn't be there. Number two, I am dropped in a random location, not in the location I intended. It's going to be impossible for me to figure out where I died because I have to jump around in the system and figure out where about my ship was located. So yeah, there's another problem. The loot box is looted by the time I came back online. So yes, they didn't consider that as part of their compensation rule. I don't have a ship within 20 jumps of the location. So yes, so 20 jumps to my nearest ship so that I can come back to pick it up. That's about 40 minutes. Yeah, so it was possible. But that's if I was online. The fact that I was offline means that I will surpass the 2 hour limit. And the fact that other players did it to me means that it was physically impossible for me to recover that box. It isn't like it's protected for 6 hours or anything of that sort. So I have to go all the way back to my base, pick up another ship while I am offline in their theoretical sense, come all the way back to this location, jump back to my loot box, which has been looted by other players, and pick up whatever loot remains. That is their fair compensation rule. Now, let's talk about why this isn't fair. Number one, when a bug report is listed with any loss of a ship, complete compensation should occur immediately because it is not the player's fault. It is the fault of the coding within the game. That means that the loss is not subject to the player. So there's one thing that they can go through. Now, the next problem within this entire issue, if you want to say that recovering the loot is up to the player, it should be done with the same ship that was lost, right? For it to be a fair compensation. So if your ship is compensated to you within the first 6 hours, which is the maximum limit for most loot boxes, and 2 hours is the regular loot box time, so 2 hours to retrieve your loot box. So within 2 hours, if you do not return and pick it up, it disappears. So if your ship is not compensated to you within 2 hours, you are subject to complete compensation should a bug be found. Now let's go forward with this here a little bit more. In the case of you actually losing a ship in terms of a bug, should they restore all your items? Yes, they should. And what about the loss of time frame within the game? Now, a lot of players don't understand this, but the time frame loss within the game means a loss in economy, a loss in your value of your vessel, value of your loot, value of everything that you are carrying. So let's say, for example, you're freighting with an interceptor, because a lot of players do that nowadays. So this will be a common issue. Let's say you're freighting a billion worth of loot and a bug ends up throwing you in the middle of a sector with enemies and they pop you because you're offline and you can't move and literally there's no way for you to defend yourself. What happens then? Well, whatever the enemies pick up is their gain. Let's say they get all of the valuable items from your loot and only the non-valuable items get destroyed. They literally have more luck than you will ever have completing the object targets to get to that point. So you lose all your loot. The devs lose a player because generally with those figures of loot, you're gonna piss off a player severely. So yes, the devs don't care by the looks of it, and actually this is support, so I shouldn't be saying devs. Sorry about that, devs. The devs are responsible for developing the game. Support is responsible for completing an error report and recovery of systems. So yeah, so that's how it goes. I'm actually mixing the two up. So the support team literally just follows a basic rule standard. Now let's go a little bit in depth with this whole issue. Let's say that it takes longer than a day to restore your ship. There was no chance of that ship recovering the loot that was lost. So more than a day is impossible to recover the loot. 2 days, well, that is physically impossible and there's a loss of income involved with it. 3 days, there is a massive loss with income. 4 days, the loss of income is enough to cause a player to quit. It's enough to revert the player from having Omega in the next set to having any type of participation in the next set in the game. So yes, no Omega, no this stuff. That's a massive loss to the player. 4 days is enough to stop your entire game. 4 days is enough to ruin everything for you in the game. So what should they do in the case that it takes them long to recover a ship on a bug? Well, they need to have a compensation method that goes beyond restoring all your items. Why is that? Well, number one, it is a bug within the game. When they had the cognitive chip problem, they didn't leave it in the game. They took it off the game. They literally went and reversed everything so that their problem was taken off. So why do they not restore your items on their bug? All right, I am actually being very, very focused and attacking on this issue. They should instantly go back, restore it, and they can't give you SP, right? Giving you SP to recover what was lost in terms of gameplay is pointless. You have lost ISK, you have lost the ability to make plex, you have lost the ability to move forward in the game. They need to restore to you an ISK value worthy of your time. Now let's talk about what is a worthy ISK value. Well, 10 million is a joke. I can make 10 million in an hour in this game by going and doing story missions. So yeah, 10 million isn't a worthy figure, so they need to go higher than 10 million, and that is per day. So let's see, what's the next issue on that list? What is the most I can make in the standard 6 hours that a player can be on the game? Well, I can make 60 million. I can make 300 million. Well, 300 million is the far extent of doing missions. 60 million is the small extent of doing two massive encounters, which is something that you can always get a hold of within that time frame. So 60 million, yeah, we're going to go with 60 million as the figure. So 60 million is what they're going to compensate you with. So what happens next after we go to 60 million? Well, 60 million is the figure that they should be compensating you with per day for every time you lose a ship. Now let's move forward with this. Let's say that your ship was in combat. Well, I understand that your loot and whatever was on it most probably will cover billions in value. So if it's transport, you actually have impacted the game by billions. Market fluctuations, value depreciations, value increases. There's no way that you can actually recover what you have made the player lose. So an SP bonus, 100 plex as a reward for the fact that your bug has caused a problem, and 60 million SP. That'll be fair to just about anybody, right? So that is an overall. So 100,000 SP per day for losing a ship due to a bug, for 60 million is per day while they are recovering a ship, and on top of that 100 plex per day. This forces the support team to actually research every single one of their errors that comes through, because they don't want you to reach the 24-hour mark, because once you reach the 24-hour mark, every day now counts as compensation. So the fact that the first day has completed means you already have it, and the second day has started means you already have the second day's reward being given to you. So you have 2 days worth of compensation coming your way if there is a bug. If it passes down to the third day and the investigation still hasn't completed, then you have 3 days worth of restoration to go. If it passes the third day mark and reaches the fourth day, you have 4 days worth of compensation. And this is where it gets a bit ridiculous. If they have a bug in the system, they should be able to identify it by key factors and key notes. Number one, where was the autopilot set? Well, let's see, did he open the map? No, he didn't open the map. So the autopilot was set from inventory. So inventory set navigations is to a station. Okay, so it's station to station. It should be in a station. Where did he end up? Okay, that's where he ended up. So, all right, so there was a problem on the navigation. Let's have a look at something else on his skill report. Was he disrupted? No, he was not disrupted. Since he was not disrupted, okay, that means it is a bug. Right, so he wasn't disrupted, he wasn't pulled out of warp, his final destination was set incorrectly, it was a game-based bug error. Okay, so we're compensating him incomplete, let's read as fast as possible. That's what they should do. And literally the argument that I just gave in words is all they have to do, and all they've got to do is open the task manager for each player. So you have a task manager which is general format, which every game has, and it will show what the player has done. So if I go and open the map and hit a search for location, it's actually going to show the location search on the menu. Then it's going to show that I set navigation. It's going to show that I altered navigation, if I altered navigation. If I don't open the chart, that means I haven't used the charts navigation method. So then that means I'm using inventory navigation method. So they have inventory navigation, as I said. Did that sound difficult? Those are three things to set for a standard navigation bug. So let's look at the next one. When traveling through the gates, you actually have a recorded time for you entering the gate and leaving to the next location. So the gate bug, how easy would it be for them to restore a ship off the gate bug? Well, it's as simple as this. Time he entered the system. Okay, he jumped through gate 1 at this time. He arrived in the second gate at that time. The ship's warp time, let's say for example you're in a battleship, is 45 seconds. How long was he at the gate? 5 minutes. Okay, yeah, there's something wrong there. It's an error. Let's instantly restore it. And we'll investigate it on the side. Player will receive everything back. Complete compensation is the rule because it was a bug on the side of the system. But no, they're going to play fair rule to PvP. That's what they're currently doing. They're not even considering the fact that it's a bug. They're just going fair compensation rule. Fair compensation rule. Fair compensation rule when it is a bug would mean a complete restoration via means of your support. It would mean a compensation beyond that as well because it is an inconvenience to the player. You have literally set him back. You have moved him multiple locations back. He isn't in the right location. He isn't in the right sector. He isn't doing the activity he was planning to do. It wasn't by choice of the player. The player didn't do something wrong. Something happened that affected the game incorrectly. So yes, those are all of the viable, legitimate arguments that can be made for these errors. So let's move on to this bugs that I've been reporting. Well, these bugs are continuous since they did the update patches. It is something that regularly happens and they need to really work on it. So I turned this weekly update patch into a rant and a fire off at the devs and the tech support. Sorry about it, not the devs, tech support. The devs are responsible for the bugs in a way, and tech support is responsible for carrying out rules. I understand that, but the lack of understanding. If your support team doesn't understand English, it might be necessary for you to outsource that support team because a lot of your gameplay audience is English speaking. If they are incapable of reading, if they cannot read, find someone who can read English. It's quite a common language, even for a country like China or Japan. You will find people who can speak and read English. So yes, find someone who can read. It will make a difference to your support. Then moving forward, let's talk about the time. Well, these errors, we understand they happen so often that there are thousands of them. Thousands of them in the game. And once you are compensated for a ship, you have to wait 30 days till you can be compensated again. So let's see if this is fair. A bug occurs on the side of the system. Now I'm going to say the system because this is the game. And the player has to take a punishment for it in not being able to recover his ship should the bug occur again or should another bug occur. Well, when a bug replacement happens for a ship, the replacement rules should be revoked on that ship. In other words, that should be shown as system error and the ship was restored due to system error. That's all they have to do. They don't have to make sure that you can't reapply and reapply and reapply. Let's say, for example, the warp bug, which is something that used to happen. It has happened to multiple players. I actually have footage of half of these errors. So yes, if you want to be difficult and say that this is unfair, I can always go and put it up and show you exactly how unfair they go. Actually, it's in some of my videos. The footage where you stuck in a gate for several minutes. I actually had a full video stuck in a gate. I did a 10-minute long video while I was stuck in a gate, and once I logged off and logged back on was the only time my ship started moving again. Fortunately for me, I was in high sec. Okay, so that is one of the major problems when it comes to support. The next lot of problems within support. When a bug is reported, they don't seem to tend to it very quickly. Now, what do I mean by tend to it very quickly? Well, there's what you call a keyword search. Now, a keyword search will identify people with the exact same problem. And considering that they have a computing system with a definite AI installed, which is the basic AI, which can do keyword searches, because we all have it. It's the standard format for Google as well. they can actually search through all the reports which say gate malfunction, gate problem, gate bug. So they could actually compile all of those instantly. And anything that is new which doesn't talk about the gate, they can read instantly on the moment it comes through. Now, obviously, you have to have a sequence of words in order for it to be considered that particular bug, and it means that they will have to read tons. Now, the average person can read about 10 to 20 pages a day. I'm guessing that that's the regular for casual reading. For business reading, it's about 100 to 200 pages worth of information a day in terms of contract development, reports, so forth. So they should be able to read enough of our complaints, because the complaints are generally not a page or two long. They may be about a paragraph long, which is like 1/8 of a page, and that means that 8 people can complain. That makes it 8 complaints per page. So 100 pages will be about 800 complaints a day. That's what they should be able to read per support technician. Obviously, they can't have one support technician for a game this large. They should have at least 10. So that means that they should be able to do 8,000 complaints a day. So let's go through it, and let's go through the method in which they need to do this here. The AI will compile a list of new errors. They can go through it, look at it, and start the investigation process. Support doesn't do the investigation. That's passed off to the developers, because only the developers can notice bugs. So when you notice it, you pass it on to the developers, and it's going to be put up into a pile box. Now, once you have noticed a bug, you must put it on the question and answer sheet that this bug has been noticed. Right, so it has taken notice, you have taken notice. If you can't repeat the error, that doesn't mean that you have all the variables. Let's talk about variables that change within a game, which is something that they do say a lot to a lot of players. Certain bugs are non-repeatable. In other words, like getting stuck in a gate. It is a random chance. So how can they computate this out of the game? Well, there's a sequence of coding that goes wrong in order for you to have that bug. Let's say it's within the base programming storage that is saved on your device. Well, is there any way that they can repeat it? No, they can't. Is it a result of their code? Yes, it is. Was it because of days and months and weeks of play? Yes, it was. So it is impossible for them to replicate those. They need to understand that those are errors that do happen. It is off base. In other words, it's off from the base. In other words, one of your functions isn't displaying, or because of something written on your device, it's showing the ship incomplete or showing the ship in a lower class. So those are things they need to remember as tech support. They need to be properly trained for tech support by the look of it, because this is a tech-based game, and they need to be doing tech support on these items. So yes, you need a properly trained staff. You can't just have page readers. So it has to be English reading page readers, Russian reading, Japanese, Chinese, Scandinavian. There's tons of languages. I'm not going to go through every single one, but you need to have all of these languages included in your support team. So a bilateral linguist will be something that you're going to need. Now, bilateral linguist means they can speak more than one language, or is it multilinguist? I think I'm getting them mistaken. Should be multilateral linguist. So multilateral linguist means they can speak more than one language. Bilateral means they can speak two languages at the exact same time without much of a problem. I think that was where I made a mistake. So anyway, a multi-language forum, so someone who can read multiple languages, and most of their development, not most of the development team, most of the support team needs to read English. So they're going to take in a ton of English, they're going to translate it, and you're going to have everything running through one or two systems. If you can't do it within your system, outsource it to another country. And it's as simple as 1, 2, 3, and that is the answer to your problems. Now, I know this has been more of a rant based on what's happened in the week. They gave me a chance with the fact that they didn't put up patch notes. And the fact that they haven't patched anything, I think, is due to the Yule Festival. I honestly don't like the Yule Festival. The fact that it gives you 7 days of gifts, and the fact that it's just a poorly done mission system is really, really bad. The missions pay out poor. It looks like they're trying to increase the income they're making from the game once more. So yeah, it looks like they're in a bit of a tough situation. I hope that things do change. I hope that support does improve, because at the rate support is going, I don't even think the 1 star that I give them in the report is fair. I want to take off that star. I want to give them a 0 for support, because not reading the error completely means that you have a 0. So thank you all for watching. Have a good day.